Every single second, your body is performing this whole series of silent, microscopic miracles just to keep you alive. It's a constant, high-wire act of tiny adjustments and corrections that we call homeostasis. So let's pull back the curtain and get a look at this incredible performance.
Really think about it. Your temperature, your blood sugar, your oxygen levels, literally everything has to be just right. So how on earth does your body manage this constant life-or-death performance without you even having to think about it?
Okay, just take a look at this pH scale for our blood. It shows you just how razor-thin the margins are for survival. You see that tiny green zone? That's the sweet spot for life, from a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. If your blood drifts even a little bit outside of that, you slide into either acidosis, which is too acidic, or alkalosis, which is too basic.
And the stakes? They could not be higher. If you drop below a pH of 6.8 or go above 7.8, it's game over. Your body has all these sophisticated systems working together just to keep that needle perfectly balanced. It's an absolutely amazing feat of biological engineering. But to perform any of these miracles, the body's got to have fuel and raw materials. And that all starts with the journey our food takes through the digestive system. So let's follow the path. So this diagram here shows you the whole route. From the moment food enters your mouth, it's on this long trip through your esophagus, stomach, and intestines before, well, what's left is eliminated. You can think of it as a biological disassembly line, just breaking everything down into parts the body can actually use. And that disassembly line, it really has 5 core jobs. First, we ingest the food. Then, we digest it, using both brute force and chemical enzymes. The body secretes fluids to help out. Then we absorb all the good stuff, the nutrients. And finally, we eliminate whatever's left over. This whole process is how we get the very building blocks of life.
Okay, so we've brought the nutrients in, but what happens when our bodies actually use them? Well, it turns out when our body processes protein, it creates a really dangerous waste product that has to be dealt with, and fast.
And that toxic byproduct is ammonia. Now, proteins are essential, right? But when we break down their components, amino acids, we're left with this nitrogen-based compound, and it is incredibly poisonous to our cells, especially our brain cells.
So what's the body's brilliant solution? Well, the liver basically acts as a detox facility. It grabs that toxic ammonia and through something called the urea cycle, it converts it into urea, a much less harmful substance that can be safely shipped over to the kidneys and just flushed out in our urine. And this quote really drives home just how high the stakes are. If that ammonia isn't converted, you get a condition called hyperammonemia. We're talking irreversible damage to the central nervous system, seizures, cognitive impairment, you name it. This balancing act is not a suggestion. It's absolutely critical.
Okay, so the body doesn't just manage immediate chemical threats. It also has to regulate these really complex long-term processes like growth. This is all controlled by another set of balances managed by chemical messengers we call hormones, which kind of act like dials that can be turned up or down.
And wow, these images are such a stark visual of what happens when that hormonal dial gets stuck. On the left, you see the effects of way too much growth hormone, which leads to gigantism. And on the right, a deficiency of the exact same hormone results in dwarfism. See? It's all about the balance.
So, if we look closer at gigantism, what's happening is the pituitary gland is just pumping out way too much growth hormone, causing everything to grow out of control. And this doesn't just make you tall, it puts a huge strain on the entire system, leading to things like high blood sugar and diabetes. If it's left untreated, this one imbalance can actually be fatal.
So we've seen how these systems are supposed to work. Now let's play detective for a little bit and look at some real clinical cases where the body's balancing act starts to fail.
Hey, remember our pH balance? Well, this is what it looks like when it fails on the acidic side. It's called respiratory acidosis, and it happens when the lungs just can't get rid of carbon dioxide fast enough. That CO2 builds up in the blood, it forms carbonic acid, and the body's pH starts to drop, leading to all these symptoms you see here.
All right, so here's our patient, a 75-year-old man, a heavy smoker with something called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Basically, his lungs are damaged. They can't exchange gases very well. He comes in confused and really struggling to breathe. His body is losing the battle to get rid of CO2. But the body doesn't just give up. When the primary system, in this case the lungs, is failing, a backup system kicks into gear. And you can see it here. The kidneys start to compensate. They actually hold on to bicarbonate, which is a base, in a desperate attempt to neutralize all that excess acid and just nudge the pH back toward that safe zone.
Okay, you ready for another puzzle? A 16-year-old boy is in the ER. He's been vomiting a lot. He's dehydrated and his circulation is starting to fail. What in the world is going on at a chemical level? Let's take a look at his labs.
Wow. Okay, the first thing that just jumps right off the page is his pH, 7.77. That is dangerously high, way into the alkalosis range. Now, his CO2 is normal, but look at his bicarbonate, the HCO3. That's the base the kidneys use. It's at 41.5. That's nearly double the normal limit. So what does that tell us?
Well, doctors have a pretty handy mnemonic for this. It's called ROME. It stands for respiratory opposite, metabolic equal. And in our case, the pH is high, and the HCO3, the metabolic part, is also high. They're moving in the same direction, so they're equal. That points us directly to a metabolic problem. And there's our diagnosis, metabolic alkalosis. Because he was vomiting so much, he lost a massive amount of hydrochloric acid from his stomach. Without all that acid to balance things out, his body's overall pH just swung dramatically in the other direction, becoming dangerously alkaline.
Now, some imbalances aren't caused by an illness or an injury. They're actually genetic. With phenylketonuria, or PKU, the problem is a single broken enzyme. As you can see right here, this basically creates a roadblock. It prevents the body from converting one amino acid, phenylalanine, into another, tyrosine.
And because of that one single broken link in the chain, phenylalanine builds up to toxic levels, and that causes severe damage to the central nervous system. This is exactly why newborns are screened for PKU. Because if we understand the imbalance, the condition can actually be managed with a very strict lifelong diet. It's a pretty remarkable example of us using our knowledge to help the body maintain a balance it just can't achieve on its own.
From the pH of your blood to the hormones that guide your growth, your body is literally an orchestra of millions of tiny, interconnected balancing acts. It's this silent, constant performance that sustains you, every single moment. Which really leaves us with a final thought. Since this incredible system works so hard for us, what can we do to help keep it perfectly in tune?